Hello, everybody. My name is Sara Elias, and I'm an associate professor of entrepreneurship at the Gustafson School of Business. This is at the University of Victoria in British Columbia in Canada. And this is where I teach in our undergraduate as well as graduate and executive programs. And today I'll be focusing on my teaching experience in the summer entrepreneurship specialization, which is at the Bachelor of Commerce or undergraduate level. So this program is a 5-course intensive full immersion specialization where students are guided through the process of developing an innovative or entrepreneurial idea. And they also take the first steps towards getting this idea off the ground, regardless of whether it pertains to a new or an existing organization. And it also includes developing an entrepreneurial mindset. That's really the core of our program, so that you can develop creative ideas and then eventually garner stakeholder support, for example, from angel investors or experienced entrepreneurs, so that the students can create some sort of new value, be it economic value or non-economic value or both. So I teach in 2 out of the 5 courses. The courses that I teach are New Venture Strategy, and then the other one is Entrepreneurship, People, Organization, and Practice. So it's a practice focused kind of OPHR type of class. And because I teach in 2 of the classes of this program, I'm often in the classroom with the students 2 to 3 times a week, and classes are usually 3 hours long. So between class time, office hours, brainstorming and practice sessions and presentations, I have an opportunity to get to know and connect with some of the students quite well, especially those who take advantage of opportunities to work with me on their ideas beyond class time. So it has been my approach in this program and in my teaching generally, and this also even before the COVID-19 pandemic, but perhaps more importantly during and in a post-pandemic time, to continually strive for bringing the body back into the classroom in all of its aesthetic complexity, be it, focusing on the sensory, bodily, or emotional elements of a human being. And, in an entrepreneurship teaching context, this means considering and processing a number of relational and intersubjective aspects requiring deep listening and effective attunement, which facilitates relational practices in and outside of the classroom, and also assists with experiences of loss, which in turn also help with establishing a stance of resilience. These are the notions that I'm going to be focusing on today. And, these notions also from a psychoanalytic perspective require the continual development of trust, a safe space, containment. And all of these take some time to develop, right? Some time and effort to develop. They also entail acceptance of both self and other and mutual recognition. So with these ideas in mind, I have designed a number of assignments to be completed throughout the semesters by the students. Some assignments are completed individually, some are in teams, some during class, some before and or after class. And they're designed to build both mutual acceptance and recognition so that, for example, students actively develop an entrepreneurial mindset and thoughtfully build a founding team that increases the chances of success for their venture and the value that they intend to create with it. To complete many of these assignments, I encourage students to engage in self-discovery by keeping a personal reflective diary. The self-care tool is helpful for unpacking and processing reactions, be it aesthetic reactions or cognitive reactions, as well as moments of surprise or concepts and ideas that resonate with them or not. And then, it also serves as a tool to reflect on why they might or might not resonate with them, and also to make connections to other courses or to other life and learning experiences. And to connect to both Ada's and Mindy's talks today, such a process of self-discovery is only possible in a learning context that is rooted in love, allowing students to be alone in the presence of a caring other. At the same time, it also entails a great level of vulnerability from both teacher and students, while both continually contributing to the learning relationship. Overall, all of these elements are important for a process of connecting and reconnecting and engaging in a caring relatedness with our students. So deep listening and effective attunement, which is the main concept that I'm going to be focusing on today, is critical for both the student-teacher relationship and, in the context of our entrepreneurship program, to the student-stakeholder relationship. So first, the first point, following Reich, I make a concerted effort to listen with a third ear, and I encourage students to do the same, for example, when dealing with tense situations within their teams. Barnes explains this process as listening to the conversation that is at hand, which attends to the affects, the body, the dissonances, the clumsiness, those things that are beyond the content of the words, seeking to find voice. So, for example, that was a quote by Barnes. For example, what I do is I often share experiences where I have based personal and business decisions on my own gut feelings as examples of how one's body and aesthetic reactions to a situation provide a layer that goes beyond rational and cognitive approaches to decision making that are critical to an array of personal, educational, and entrepreneurial practices. Early on in the program, I provide students with ample opportunities to engage their intuitions while being imaginative, creative, and playful. Those are very important early on in the program. And I do that by encouraging them to literally go and think outside of the classroom, not just the box, but actually thinking outside of the classroom to reimagine, for example, how mundane objects can be repurposed for creating new offerings. That's the idea of breaking down the barriers of functional fixedness, or to look at existing locations with new eyes and come up with novel ideas and potentially even breaking paradigms. Sometimes they do this in teams, sometimes they do this individually, and then they reflect on the process as well. At times this means taking the students outside of the boundaries of the classroom. And this is important because amphitheater style, tiered classrooms, which is where I usually teach, they not only create a potentially oppressive power dynamic between students, definitely a hierarchy between students and teacher, but the classroom's thick walls also encapsulate and possibly even limit the imaginative and creative processes of the students, right? So they literally put a ceiling over students' imaginations and where these imaginations might take the students. So at an institutional level, the ways in which classrooms are built and even taken for granted also remind us that organizations in the education industry could learn, by engaging in deep listening from organizations that we mentioned in our classrooms. For example, IDEO, it's an organization that recognizes and carefully considers the impact of one's surroundings on stimulating the senses, engaging creativity, and fostering collaboration. So we can do similar things with our classrooms. Similarly, a space that facilitates deep listening and effective attunement by teachers and students should be center stage when designing classroom settings that are more conducive to creating learning and stronger learning relationships. So to my second point, so seeing entrepreneuring and the development of entrepreneurial ideas and practices as a highly relational process. I also encourage students to not only talk to potential customers and stakeholders, that's actually quite at the foundation of our program. So the other professors that teach in the same specialization do the same. and we encourage them to really listen and reflect with their teammates on the repeated feedback that they receive in conversations and interactions with stakeholders, and also reflecting on the works in progress. They're working on prototypes or services or whatever they are designing. And that's to help each other listen to that, to which other teammates may no longer be listening, perhaps due to narcissistic defenses. Entrepreneurs often struggle to deeply listen and process feedback that may not necessarily align with their original imaginings and aspirations for an entrepreneurial idea or practice. Entrepreneurial vision, as you know, this was actually pointed out by Mindy in a different conversation. It can actually work as a barrier, you know, fantasy that insulates one from the world and from what it can truly offer. Indeed, deep listening and effective attunement require listening beyond what is said, reflecting not only on how something may be said, but perhaps beyond that, also reflecting on what might simply not be said. So beyond words, it involves reflecting on, for example, nonverbal forms of communication, gestures, posture, facial expressions. And here I'm quite influenced by the work of Curtis LeBaron. Although there is an increasing interest in making the learning experience more engaging and experiential, for example, via class simulations, flipping the classroom, I believe that we as a community of teachers, along with our institutions, of course, can continue to do more to engage students with local communities. For example, in a synergistic relationship that could take the shape of, for example, consulting work, and or case studies of local companies, with the aim of providing, for example, strategic recommendations. I do that quite a bit. This would not only increase the impact of our teaching and possibly even our research, but also the quality of the learning experience that we facilitate for our students. It would also provide an opportunity for continuing the self-discovery process for both students and local companies, likely even teachers. Providing a space for empowerment and developing methods of interaction and mutual recognition, for example, by recognizing sameness and difference through dialogue, and articulating and reflecting on unconscious thoughts emerging from interactions and aesthetic experiences. And here I'm thinking about my work with Mindy that was published at Organization 2021. And that's about a research pair. It's more of a methods paper, but it could also be applied to this context. Deep listening and effective attunement is also important in assisting with the experience of loss. As a potentially traumatic experience, loss is something that we encounter in the learning relationship. For example, as we open our hearts to students, we know that this relationship will eventually be terminated. As students move on with their careers and we, teachers, prepare for a new semester with new students. Other types of loss may also be experienced that may affect, and at times quite severely, how the learning process unfolds. For example, the unexpected loss of a student or a classmate to mental illness. Here, the presence of a caring other who deeply listens, be it another student or a teacher, is critical for the mourning process and maintaining a stance of resilience, which is quite important for any learning context. Or in the context of teaching during the pandemic, the loss of in-person social interaction, and with it, the ability to engage in deep aesthetic listening with our bodies. Although it may not always be easy to perceive and attend to nonverbal behaviors in the classroom, the pandemic and the move to online teaching that resulted from it severely limited the ability of teachers to deeply listen. Even if students had their cameras on, many didn't, in my experience, and I think others probably experienced the same, you know, and I often wondered what that black box with only a name, sometimes, I think most of the time it had a name, what did it mean? What that kind of behavior might be telling me? Were students struggling? Could they simply not afford a computer or a camera? I mean, they had a computer, maybe they were on their phones. Or were they simply switching themselves off? So, and at the most, all one can see is a bodiless head. Nonverbal communication becomes severely limited. In my case, I rely quite a bit on body language and communication that goes beyond words. Again, gestures, chuckles, laughs, intonation. And I use that to not only connect with students, but also assess how the learning experience might be unfolding for them. And then I adjust what I'm saying and how I'm saying it according to that. So removing such nonverbal and bodily elements from the learning relationship results in quite the anesthetic or anesthetic experience. And here I'm thinking about the work by Barrett, where we literally lose sensation and teaching and learning become numbed. So as we return to our classrooms and gain our bodies back, we as teachers then have an opportunity to reflect upon the sensations and the static reactions of which we have been deprived for the past couple of years, perhaps even longer, to really listen deeply to both ourselves and others, and to teach our students to do the same in their personal and professional practices. Only then can we all truly take the stance of resilience that we need to move from adapting to recent darker times toward creating brighter futures together for one another. So this is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed in my short talk. I hope you're enjoying the Academy, and thank you so much for your time and attention today.